Welcome back to another video. Hope you're all keeping safe and well. This is another Spurs chat video with three big Spurs fans. First of all, I've got Ricky Norwood, a former EastEnders star, actor and presenter. And then two guys from the Last Word on Spurs podcast, Ricky Sachs, the founder and presenter, and Jason McGovern, a huge star on the Last Word on Spurs podcast. So do check that out and do follow them on Twitter and listen to their shows. I'm a regular contributor as well, so a fantastic show to be a part of. Please do put all of your thoughts and comments in the comment section below on everything that we speak about in today's video. So welcome back to this Spurs chat. I've got Ricky Norwood with me, Jason McGovern and Ricky Sachs. Ricky Norwood, I'm going to start with you. No Premier League football for nearly 100 days. Tottenham are back in just 5 days' time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Manchester United. How are you feeling? Are you excited to see the Premier League back?
Do you know what? I am super excited to see it back, man. But you know what, to tell you the truth, I think the break was needed for us. After that last Champions League game, I was done with Tottenham for a minute. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, there was a whole wave of negativity coming. But you know what, with this little break, it's been nice to kind of let everybody regroup, let everybody kind of reassess, recharge, and go again. And having the break as well is charged me up, you know, and I can't wait for it right now. Like, I've missed it so much. In the same time, I've enjoyed the break, but I've missed it and the routine of it. And yeah, man, it's going to be good to see the boys out there in whatever capacity they can be out there. You know, with a crowd or without it, it's going to be fantastic for the boys to put on the shirt again and for us to cheer on our boys.
Ricky, with this break though, during COVID-19, are you feeling confident again that Tottenham are going to get back to winning ways?
Well, you know what? The one thing that I have noticed is that Jose, he's used this time to his advantage, to the team's advantage. He hasn't stopped working with the players on an individual level, or whether it be the Zoom stuff, and he's really fired up. I think he sees these last 9 or so games as like playoff games, you know, and he's used this kind of to get to know the squad a bit more and to galvanize the squad. And I think that even the team are more behind Jose now because they understand him more. They can see that he's there for Tottenham and the club, and he wants the club to succeed as well as, do you know what I mean, himself. So seeing the boys charged up, seeing them energized, seeing that Mourinho is had some time to put in all the kind of tactics and scenarios that he wants to work on in training with a fully fit squad, you know, that's exciting, and I'm excited, and I think we've got a great chance to start a winning run and to go on and get that mentality and get that winning feeling back into the bones of Tottenham.
Jason, how are you feeling for the return of the Premier League?
I think intrigued more than excited. I think it's different to when you start in August, when you got your new players and you've had a genuine pre-season, 7 or 8 games, and you get that, you know, everyone resets at 0 points and there's all that optimism. Whereas here we're going into a situation of just 9 games with the same squad, albeit players back from injury. So it's really hard to know how all the different teams will adapt to no supporters in stadiums. I've even seen people saying that the actual games are harder because the sterilisation of the balls and the hotter climate will make it a lot, you know, the disinfectant on the ball stops the passing, zooming around. We just don't know how teams will be. And it's it's intriguing more than exciting. I don't think you can be excited going into a season where you start kicking the ball off and we're 7 points away from being where we want to be. You don't start a season on -7 normally. So it's intriguing to see how we'll be. And I just think the whole tone will be set by Man United, which feels like a semi-final. Win that semi-final and you can go on to maybe achieve something. Lose that semi-final, and I feel then that the remaining 8 games just then becomes your pre-season training for next season. because there's not then a lot left to play for other than obviously a derby against that lot, and even that behind closed doors. That's going to be hard to get that intensity, isn't it? So it's intriguing to see how all the teams will be. Nobody knows what's. Like I say, normally with a pre-season, everyone's had 7 or 8 games of friendlies, and we've watched us in the, I don't know, what is it, the International Champions Trophy. This time we've had, 4 30 minutes v Norwich. Man United have had 2 games v West Brom. That's it. Nothing now till next Friday. So it's the unknown, isn't it? And I think that empty stadiums is going to be what's really difficult to judge.
Was it the right decision for you, though, Jace, for the Premier League to come back?
I think it was. I can understand people are still a little bit feel that it's too early to be playing, but from a footballing side, or rather a business side, I think it was vital that it came back, because businesses just can't be being in limbo, and we're seeing the rest of the country now start to come out, and I think football had to do it. Otherwise, there's a massive danger that there were 4 Premier League clubs that I know of that were in serious danger of going out of business. And that's just in the Premier League. And so it's, I think football had to come back. It definitely did. If we want football in 2 years' time, it had to come back now.
Rick, let's come on to you. If we think back to the Leipzig game, the Burnley away game, the Norwich FA Cup game at home, very poor displays, very poor results, those recent games for Spurs. Are you confident for this Friday? Are you confident for the remainder of this season?
Well, more confident than what I was after that RB Leipzig performance. I mean, we have got the option now of having, to some degree, an available squad to choose from. Of course, not all the players are going to be fully fit, and that goes for the rest of the Premier League. But I think when Jose was wishing the season to end, let's not forget, just before that RB Leipzig game, he's now got, arguably, all of his players back to some degree. Obviously, you haven't seen the Chelsea at all feature yet in terms of any action. I look at that Spurs team, and there's a lot of quality in there, but I can't get away from the fact that at fullback, it really does still concern me. I even look at the centre-back partnerships, what Jose's got to try and pick from. And you look and you think, okay, even with Toby, and it seems like even since Toby signed that new contract, he seems to have lost a yard of pace. Vertonghen's contract is up in the air. Sergio Aurier at fullback hasn't looked convincing. To be fair, Noah has won 4th. You say Ben Davies probably is the best option on the left, purely because he is reliable and dependable, but doesn't really offer you much in terms of going forward. So I think there's still a lot of question marks over this Spurs squad as a whole. But I agree with Jason that I think that Man United game is just so crucial in terms of if we do get a result there, it would not surprise me at all if Tottenham could go on and then record 8 straight victories. It wouldn't surprise me. But in the other sense, if Spurs lose that opener to Man United, the resumption game to start with, it does concern me in terms of trying to get into that top 4. And I will probably come on to it that City's ban could prove to be pivotal for Tottenham in terms of reaching the Champions League. But I still think there's a lot of question marks with this squad and just how good it's going to be over this next 9 games to come.
But when you think of those results, though, Rick, our most recent results, going into this Manchester United game, you talk to any Spurs fan now, everyone seems to be extremely confident going into this game because we've got the likes of Sissoko, Sonny and Harry Kane back.
Yep. I mean, I want to urge on the side of, getting too excited because we haven't seen this team compete over the last 3-4 months. We haven't seen Man United compete. We don't know what Man United have been like. I know they obviously had a friendly called off because the opposing manager was unfortunately struck by a positive coronavirus test. So we just don't know how good these teams are going to be when they come back. Obviously, I'm a lot more confident than what I was prior to the United game being arranged because United are on a great run of form. As you mentioned, our results building up to that game, we were nowhere near the level, I think, of being able to get a result. We looked so poor, as you mentioned, in that Norwich game in the Cup, the RB Leipzig game. We just simply didn't look good enough as an 11 to compete. I think we have to be positive, the fact that Mourinho has now got a squad available to him, where he has got options in that squad. And you look at our bench, I think even our bench from midfield to attack, there's quite a number of options that Jose can use to bring off that bench. And I think now it's all down to his coaching ability and his tactical knowledge of how much he knows about these players during this break that can really influence how Spurs can get a result against Manchester United. But I wouldn't be saying here I'm fully confident because I don't think you can be. We're not sure what to expect.
Ricky, let's come on to you. When you think of the 2019-2020 season, it has been a weird a long and a poor season for all of us Spurs fans. I think back to at the start of the season, losing that game to Newcastle at home 1-0, very poor display. Brighton away, we lost 3-0 and Ndombele went off at half-time. Then you got the likes of the Bayern Munich game, 7-2 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Pochettino going, Mourinho then coming in. Under Mourinho, we then played Chelsea at home and away. We lost both. Manchester United away, we lost that game. These important games under both managers so far this season, we haven't got the results. How would you describe the 2019-2020 season so far?
That's tough to describe it. It's been a bit of a whirlwind. It's been a bit of a tornado over time at Tottenham. You know, and this is all coming off of the back of the Champions League final. There was a lot that had to happen at Tottenham that summer after that final. Yes, we had to regenerate the squad, refresh the squad. There was players that, I've said this before on last word on Spurs. It's like, I think there's a lot of players that fell out of love with the project and wanted to move on. There were some players that Poch wanted to move on. He wanted some, you know, so a new generation to come through and to step that level up. And once certain things wasn't happening, and once everybody started getting upset with each other, you know, it looked for a moment that some of the players down tools, you know, especially in the first half of that season. There's been a lot of shift and transition in Tottenham season, you know, trying to, you know, losing Poch and getting over that as a squad, you know, a mentality thing, and then having, you know, Mourinho come back in, to come in and having such a big personality, a big name at the club. There's that, but then there's also your kind of your heart and your loyalty towards the manager, you know, towards Pochettino, the manager that you've just had. So there was that transition. Then there was like, let's get to focusing on the league. And, you know, we've always had that gap. And, you know, Mourinho, I think it was 11, 12 point gap. And we broke, you know, we got there. We got right behind Chelsea, I think it was at the time. And I think it was that game against Chelsea in which we lost, which then pushed us back down. And we lost members from our squad, you know, injuries. There's been a lot going on. The one thing that I would say, though, is that this break, this lockdown period, this quarantine period, this whole COVID-19 thing that affects everybody, no matter, you know, of wealth or status or race or religion, it's affected everybody, and it locked down everything. And I think that these players have had a taste of what retirement may look like, you know, like home life. And, you know, and I feel that they would have a new kind of, a new energy, a new kind of a love for football again, you know, a love for the game again, a love for putting on that shirt. So I'm hoping that this little break as well has just regenerated the whole kind of mentality of the squad. So it's been a topsy-turvy season. It's almost been like a season back in the 90s, you know, when we had Santini and then Martin Jol, and then, you know, like it's been one of those crazy ones where, you know while Jol's playing the UEFA Cup game, who was it? Ramos was in the stat. It's been a bit crazy. It's been like 4 seasons of old school Tottenham play in half a season. But I'm hoping that, like I say, that it's all been for the better. Like, because even me, who was heartbroken with Poch leaving, this break has allowed me to kind of love my club again and kind of love, you know, what we stand for and who we are. And it's given me time to kind of get to know Mourinho as a manager and as a man who's part of the club and who wants to do well for us as well. So I think there's been, you know, a lot of time to kind of digest, and hopefully all of this pent-up energy gets to be put into our football, gets to be put into a new winning way under Mourinho.
Ricky, how did you feel about Mourinho coming in? Were you pleased with that choice?
I wasn't, is the truth. I wasn't. I thought that, you know, at the time, you know, I was in love with Pochettino and the job that he done. And, you know, I grew up in the 90s where Spursy, the term Spursy, which I hate, I can't stand it. But that was a thing, you know. Every time we needed to win a game, we lost it. Every time we need, you know, Lasagna Gate. There's so many things. And Pochettino changed everything. He changed the whole mentality of the club from top to bottom. And he turned us into a team that was recognizable as a bit of a force. You know, we was challenging in the league, and we was challenging in the Champions League, and we was making movements. He put to bed all of these old ghosts that we had, you know, not beating Man United or not, you know, all of these old ghosts, like finishing above the Gooners, you know, all of these ghosts that we've been carrying with us for a long time. He buried all of those as well. So, and he shifted us as a club. So I had so much love for him. So when Mourinho came in, I didn't like it at first. You know, it's taken me a while, mostly because I was more heartbroken about Poch. And a part of me felt that Mourinho was going to come in and he was going to destroy what Poch has built. But if I look at it with objective eyes, you know, Mourinho's come in with this whole new backroom staff. He's come in with Sacramento, who is known for, you know, passing and moving and pressing play and attacking play. And, you know, so maybe I'm excited to see a transition in Mourinho. I think there's a lot about him that has shifted. I think they're, you know, he's still going to be him, but I think he's learned from some of the mistakes that he's made in the past. So I'm kind of, you know, excited now to back him and to see what he brings to the table and to give him that 12th man kind of feeling, you know, because he's there for us and he's ready to fight. So let's go together. Come on, you Spurs, you know.
Jason, let's come to you. I know that I've spoke to you and Ricky Sachs a lot this season about this season, but how would you sum up the departure of Pochettino and then the arrival of Mourinho, the style of play that has changed? What's next?
I don't know. I'll see 15 Zs probably in my head before I see Mourinho's football again. I think the season's been a mess. The mess is the polite word for it. It's from day one, that performance against Villa, even though we won that game for 80 minutes, that was a really poor display, wasn't it? We had those Newcastle games, Watford at home, Sheffield at home. So even forgetting about Bayern. So I always said I felt the time for Poch to go had come because, you know, enough changes weren't going to be made for him. And I just felt enough of those players had kind of lost the belief in him. And so you had to reset it. But I remember saying to you, whilst Pochettino was still manager, and you referred to it the other day, the conversation in the pub, and I said Mourinho would be the last person I'd want at my football club. And that's still the way I feel. I think my criticisms of him haven't been for the results so much that we've got. You know, I expected to lose at Chelsea. I expected to lose at home to Liverpool. I didn't expect to be knocked out of the cup by Norwich, but it's not the results, because I accept that without Kane and without Sonny in the side, you lose that many goals and players aren't playing with confidence. I understand results will suffer, and that's hard for him to change. My biggest problem with all that time was the intent that we showed, and I still look at that Liverpool game and think, other than Kane, that was the only person missing. And Tottenham have won plenty of games without Harry Kane. There was no reason for us to be so negative at home to a Liverpool side, however good Liverpool were. And I was embarrassed that day. And I said then, that's the last time I'll spend, I forget how much my ticket was that day, but 75, 80 quid that I paid to watch that in our own stadium. And there was no excuse for that for me. I don't care how good Liverpool are. And since then, I mean, I think I saw you before the Southampton Cup tie. I think it was the Southampton replay when we met in the pub, wasn't it? And again, even that day, we start brightly and then we try and hold on to a 1-0 lead against Southampton at home. And we get through that because we start attacking in the last 10 minutes and look good. And then when Norwich comes and we sit back on a 1-0 lead again. And no matter how many injuries you've got with Kane and Son, I'm still looking at a side with Mora, Lamela, Bergwijn, Lo Celso and Ndombele, Dele Alli, Sessegnon, thinking, surely we can try to play some decent football. We might not be able to play it, but we can at least try to play it. And I've seen none of that. And I've said it before, I can't see one thing that Mourinho is giving us at the moment that Sam Allardyce wouldn't give us. And don't get me wrong, Mourinho is a far better manager than Sam Allardyce is. I mean, he's proven that with all the trophies. But you know what I'm saying, in that little short period we've had since I would say really since the Man United defeat in the league. Once we got past that Burnley, Bournemouth, West Ham games, that first one when we went to Old Trafford, we followed that with a smash and grab win at Wolves, didn't we? Then we're poor against Chelsea, poor all over Christmas. I look at that and think Sam Allardyce could have us hoofing the ball to an isolated man up front. And that's all I've seen from us now for a number of weeks. And I expect more from Tottenham Hotspur than that. And for me, that's never acceptable to watch that football.
Do you think that's a style of football that we're going to have to get used to watching in the future, Jace? Or do you think that is the way he was playing this season because of the many problems that Spurs have had?
Well, we saw it against Chelsea in that first game at home. And we always said, I think the Chelsea games were the big games for him, particularly the one at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
I think we'll see us, think we'll see us hoof it so much, but I think we will see a more pragmatic Tottenham as it goes along. But get me wrong, I don't mind a defensive kind of setup where you look to play genuinely on the break. And what I mean by genuinely play on the break is that when you win the ball, 4 or 5 of you go forward with pace so that when you get to the other end, there's options. But in that Liverpool game, for instance, the home game, when we won the ball, we just kicked it long and nobody went with the ball. So that's not playing on the break. That's just hoofing it and making sure everyone's set rigid in their position. And the stupid thing was that despite playing that way, we were no harder to score goals against. We were no harder to create chances against. And I just saw so much passage. Chelsea away was painful, wasn't it? We said that. We kicked off, and immediately we kicked off, 11 men dropped behind the ball. And I thought, no, this is not how Tottenham have to play. And the strange thing is, with Son and Kane gone, so many goals out of the team, that to me means you're going to have to create even more chances to score your goals, not create less chances and hope to win 1-0. It's not going to happen.
Rick, let's come on to you. Let's cast our mind back in November when things weren't going great for Pochettino, even though he, in my opinion, he had achieved so much at the club. He didn't spend money in 518 days, took us to a Champions League final, delivered every year what the board wanted, that top 4 finish to get us Champions League football. Well, I think it was just before he was sacked, there was me, you and Jason in the pub over the road, just having done a last word.
Right, in our shortlist.
And both of us looked at one another and said, who would you want if Pochettino goes? And both of us turned around and said, Mourinho. Because, and Jason gave us a right dirty look as well, I might add. Because
Well, it wasn't just all that. Yeah, more than that.
it's about trophies. It is about trophies. And I think that all of us Tottenham fans want trophies. And dare I say, my classic line of not winning a league since 61, European trophy since 84, an FA Cup since 91, and a League Cup since 2008. No trophy for 12 years. Is Mourinho the man? Are you convinced by what you've seen so far? And do you see the trophies coming soon?
Well, the reality is, you look at the guy's CV, what is it, 26, 27 trophies in a span of clubs where, I mean, wherever he's gone in, he has ultimately won a trophy, if not more than just the one trophy. So his track record tells you that he does bring trophies wherever he does go. I think the issues, obviously, we've got as fans is that with the trophies, if we do get them, we have also been, in the last 4 or 5 years, had some wonderful football to watch. And I don't want to make this excuse up, but I mean, towards the end of Pochettino's reign, I'll be honest with you, the last 9 to 12 months, I don't think the football was brilliant. I wouldn't call it champagne football, but we had a close affinity and a close connection to Maurizio Pochettino. And that's hence why I think there was a huge amount of support for Maurizio, even at the very end, even when it wasn't going right, even up until that Sheffield United game, which for me, I thought it was difficult from there onwards. I mean, we look at the Bayern Munich game, you know, you lose 7-2 and you've got to have a reaction after that game. And then we lose 3-0 to Brighton. So you think, how could have Pochettino carried on or got us out of the situation we was in? Of course, I acknowledge the wonderful work he done. Rick mentioned about laying the ghost. He did lay the ghost of Arsenal. We beat Man United. We beat Chelsea. We beat Liverpool. We had some fantastic results under him. And you can't doubt the way that he coached players to become better in themselves as players. But ultimately, I think as supporters, through that journey of 4 to 5 years, whilst we acknowledge from a domestic perspective Spurs are improving, we ultimately wanted to see the end result, which of course is that trophy. And we have sold ourselves a little bit to the devil, where we have gone with a man that we know, even before taking the job, doesn't play the most attractive football on the eye, but he does get results in those big games, like those Champions League games we've always spoke about, the know-how of getting through, winning ugly, grinding out the results, which, to be fair, Spurs aren't typically always renowned for doing. So I think with Mourinho, do I believe he's the right man? I think it's still too early to tell. I think you have to give the man a full summer with this group of players. I know he's had this enforced break now where he's had the opportunity to get to know them better, but he hasn't got the squad he would want. Will he ever get that squad now because of the COVID pandemic? I'm not too sure. But this man, although winning trophies, is renowned also, surely, for being able to get the best out of players. You know, a lot of players, when he signed, spoke about playing under Mourinho, the likes of Moura, the likes of Dyer, the likes of Alderweireld. You know, would he have signed a new contract, Toby, if Pochettino was still there? I'm not too sure. So I think a lot of this now was trying to keep the current players happy. That I think was evident. Pochettino's reign came to an end. There was a need to make a change. And I said to you, Chris, at the time, my biggest fear for Spurs was, and this is no offence to him, I would not have wanted to go for a young manager like Eddie Howe, a guy that's still trying to find his way in the managerial world, that was struggling with Bournemouth at the time, and hand him a project like Tottenham, managing world-class players, managing players that, you know, want to be competing in the Champions League, want to be competing for the title when he's not ready yet. So you're kind of left with a small pool of choices to who you can bring in. That's at the very top level. Mourinho was available. There was no compensation to pay. He's on a very, very good contract. Pochettino's compensation package we know was huge. And I think you have to give him time. You know, I can't get away from what Jason's saying. That Norwich game in the Cup was awful. It was awful to watch. You can't get away from that. Over Christmas, yes, we was poor. But I think it is right to say that I think we amassed the second most amount of points up until Villa away, when we lost Sonny, and obviously Bergwijn got injured and we had no Kane. So whatever we're saying, up to a point, Mourinho was getting the results. Maybe the football wasn't as attractive as Pochettino in the good era of Poch, where we was, you know, competing for the league. But I think we have to give Mourinho the time. And the question now really is whether Mourinho still believes that there's enough in this squad without having to really inject millions into it to get Spurs to where they need to be. Because I don't think now with COVID-19, Spurs are going to spend anywhere near the amount they would have needed to in order to try and get back to a level of competing for the Premier League, if you even can do that with Tottenham at the moment.
Well, Rick, interesting you should say that. How many players do you realistically think that Tottenham are away of challenging the likes of Manchester City and Liverpool? Because right now it looks like we are a very, very long way away.
It's a good question. I mean, I would say we're at least a couple of fullbacks away, plus maybe a central defender. I mean, I love Hugo Lloris, maybe plus even a new goalkeeper. We still need a backup striker. So I'm reeling off already 5 or 6 positions that if Spurs could get key players in that are good enough, it will allow them to compete. But I don't think the money's going to be there. And I don't think Spurs are in a position where they can now go in the market and do that. And this is where with Mourinho, you are relying on a lot of the contacts he knows in the footballing world. He knows obviously quite a number of agents that have done favours with him in the past. You know, he's got good friendships at Real Madrid, Inter Milan, dare I say even Manchester United. I think he's got to use all that experience now to really try and bring in a couple of decent, maybe free transfers or players that are coming towards the end of their contract. Look at Holberg at Southampton. I think he'd be a decent signing. And this is where he needs to really use the scouting knowledge to try and bring players in that can make a difference straight away. Someone like Jedson Fernandes, for example, he's a young kid. He's coming on an 18-month deal. I haven't seen anything yet to tell me he's going to be a world-class player. But ultimately, he's been here for a very short time. He's adapting from a new country. We're going to have to give him time. And I think, you know, in general, Mourinho is going to need time. And it's whether people like Jace will give him that time, really.
Rick, don't worry. I know you're itching to talk about transfers. We will come on to it. Don't worry.
Oh,
Ricky, let's come on to you. Do you think that Jose Mourinho has been brought in just to deliver Tottenham a trophy as soon as possible, a League Cup or an FA Cup, or is he the man to take us to the next step and really, really challenge for that Premier League?
Well, that's the question, Chris. That is definitely a question. I think that they've brought him in because they want to win and they want to win big. When talking about Mourinho, I like to look at Poch's first year. When Poch first turned up, in his first year, he had to deal with so much. He had to deal with switching the formation, switching the mentality, getting rid of the dead wood, getting rid of players that didn't really want to play, that were kind of there just to kind of get paid, and that didn't really care to win and to want to move forward. So you have to get rid of all of those players as well. And it seems to me it's almost the same for Mourinho right now, that he's going to need at least a year to implement his tactics, implement his way to get his players in, or even the players that he's coaching right now, in the same level where he's at. The one thing, like you said, Chris, was that he's proven. The one thing you can't deny with Mourinho is that he's proven. His trophies speak for themselves. And we have seen, yes, we have seen some poor football. We saw some poor football at Man United. But we saw some great football at Porto when he first got there, and he was under a budget, and he brought in a few key players of his own and changed the face of Porto, like when he was there, you know. And when he got to Chelsea as well, when Damien Duff and Robin was on the other side, and they were playing some attacking stuff as well, you know. And he will tell you, I've seen it in many interviews, about his record at Real Madrid as well. Like, he's scoring records and how many goals in the league and stuff like that. So I got this feeling that if given time, he's going to have a mix of how Tottenham want to play attackingly and some kind of dogged kind of defense and mentality to, you know, to see a game through, or to manage a game, or to win a game to get us through a second leg of a tie or something like that. My hope now, like I say, with the break that's giving me some time, my hope now is that he's gonna mix both worlds, the kind of the resilient and the flair. And if he can do that, you know, if him working with Sacramento, if that's his idea, I think there's a great place for us to go, and hopefully we get to lift not only one but a couple of trophies very, very soon.
Ricky, how do you think the Tottenham fans will feel? Because we're so used to seeing this free-flowing Spurs play. If we played boring football all season next season, but ended up with an FA Cup and a League Cup, how do you think a lot of Tottenham fans would feel, and how would you feel?
Me personally, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I don't think I would like it. I didn't like the boring
but we
play.
want the trophies.
We do want the trophies, but this is where we're at right now. This is why, even like Ricky was saying earlier about, like, we've almost sold ourselves out to the devil to try and get trophies now. Like, we're trying to forfeit our flair to get a cup. But like I'm saying, I'm hoping that at the time that he was playing negatively, and at the time that he was chopping and changing his squad, he could never have the same 11 the next week. Do you know what I mean? There was always somebody out. So, like I say, like, I'm hoping that period of time was to learn, let's say, the resilient side. Now that they've got their full squad, now that we can work with a full squad, now that we can work, especially in these 9 games, with 5 subs, where we can actually have, like, our first team on, and then, like, have impact subs like Lucas and Lamella who can go and attack. We was chopping and changing, and we was, every player that we did have was on empty because they were playing every game, and they were relied to be the winner of every game, and everybody run out of gas, you know? So my hope is that, like I say, that with the loss of football, that the players themselves have gone, you know what, wow, maybe, like, you know, maybe I haven't, you know, loved the game enough, you know, like, in a sense of, like, you know, this could be what retirement's like. Let me put my all back into my game. Let me love my game. Let me love my club. Let me love my team. Let me get behind. Do you know what I mean? They're all inspired and excited. You know, I'm sure they watched the Jordan documentary on Netflix as well and got inspired to kind of go, yeah, let's do this. And with somebody like Mourinho, who is renowned for galvanizing a team. All right, look, I think we give Mourinho a hard time because he came in and he said he's the special one, and he rolls with his arrogance. And we're all expecting him, because he said that, to do it tomorrow. Let us do what we do, and like, as Spurs fans, and, like, give him a little bit of time. Let's see. Like, I'm hoping, like I say, those negative results were just to learn how a makeshift back four would work. Do you know what I mean? If come to the point. With a fully fit squad, that might come in handy. Do you know what I mean? Like that those lessons in those negative times might come in handy. And I'm hoping you can hear with the hope in me, Chris. I'm hoping that we play good football at the same time. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if I can handle that. It was hard to watch before we went on lockdown. I swear to you, like I threw all my dummies and toys out of the pram after that Leipzig game. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm getting rid of my Sky Sports. I'm getting rid of BT Sport. I'm unsubscribing. Last word. No, I would never do it, Ricky. I would never do it. I'd never do it. But you know, there was a lot going on. You know, but like I say, like with the break, I think I'm ready now, and I'm hoping that the players are ready, and I hope they're going to show us more. Because Mourinho knows that us as Spurs fans, we want more. He started to embrace himself in the Spurs culture. So hopefully we get to see it.
Ricky, you say that, you know, Mourinho has only been in charge for 7 months, 3 months that we've had, this COVID-19 lockdown, haven't played. A lot of Spurs fans are heavily criticising Mourinho already based on what they have seen this season. Do you think that's unfair to criticise him then at this point?
Well, yeah, it is, really. I mean, it's only because, like I say, he comes in with the I'm the special one tag and the Mourinho arrogance who says he can fix any problem and he's the best at anything. So we're expecting him to do it tomorrow. And if he doesn't, it's like, look, I think a lot of us are still, or a lot of that still came from the heartbreak of Poch. So any mistake that Mourinho made, it was like, haha, see, I told you. I told you he was rubbish. I told you all he wants to do is park the bus. I told you he's negative. It's all to kind of confirm bias. Do you know what I mean? And he's had to deal with a makeshift injured squad that has had to deal with a transition in a manager who inspired the whole squad to get to a Champions League final and compete for a title. Do you know what I mean? In the league, like, so there's a lot that has happened. I think it is even me. Like, I've been unfair to him. You can ask Costa when you speak to Anthony. Ask him. Like, I was unfair to him, and
I think we all have been. I really do.
And I think, like, if we look at ourselves, we can see that. Let's, like I say, give him this little piece of time. Give him the same time. Give him that same year of working the start. You remember what Poch's year 2 was? Year 2 was flying. You know, it was after the ifs and the buts. You got to remember, we was losing 4-0 to Liverpool's and Chelsea's and 5-0 to Man City's left, right, and centre. Yeah, and then Poch came in. That first year, there was still a couple of those 2-0, 3-0 losses, but he used that and he used those lessons so that year 2, and then even look at the last year at the Lane where we was unbeaten. Do you know what I mean? At home. I mean, so let's give Mourinho time. Let's give him time.
Mourinho always wins trophies in his first full season at a club, and of course, next season ends in a 1. So I'm very excited about next season. I really am.
I mean, come on,
Jason, let's come on to you. Let's talk about transfers. Your favourite subject, transfers. Do you see any transfer activity this summer for Tottenham?
I think there'll be players that come in, but whether they'll be of the quality that we'd ideally want. I mean, Højbjerg is one that's so heavily talked about. But as I said the other night, I've never once seen Højbjerg for Southampton and think, wow, I wish he played for us. He doesn't look as good for them as, say, Morgan Schneiderlin did for them 2 years or 3 years ago. When Schneiderlin was there, you thought, yeah, there's a player, and look how disappointing his moves eventually became. So, but that does seem to be one that's rumbling on. But you can forget all about 35 million that Southampton want. You know, and it's hard to see. You know, Liverpool. We've given Liverpool huge praise for the fact that they identified their weaknesses and they went out and got Van Dijk and they went out and got Alisson, and they didn't care how much it's cost them. And we all praised their ambition that they showed. And yet there's a player in Werner that Liverpool wanted, that he wants to go to Liverpool, and yet they've said, into the current circumstances, as Champions League winners or holders, as probable Premier League winners, they've said, no chance, 52 million, no way we're paying that. And so if Liverpool are failing to justify those figures, anything that Tottenham spend is, you just don't see us spending 40, 50, 60 million. And I think that's going to be the problem for Mourinho, that I think, you know, I said we probably need as our squad about 16 or 17 new players, because I think this group has There's many faults individually in this group of players. And honestly, we look at it, don't we? We say Auriera's not good enough. Sanchez probably isn't good enough. Toby's not looking at his best. Eric Dyer, what's his role? Is Winks good enough? Is Moussa Sissoko a player that you want for 2 or 3 years? There's so many question marks about so many players. That's before you get to Walker Peters and backup players. And is Lucas Moura good enough? So, but the circumstances that maybe would have allowed Mourinho to go into the market in the way that he wanted, i.e. Tottenham with Champions League football and a proper transfer market as such, he may well have been able to get 3 or 4 players that he genuinely wanted. And I think that's going to be even harder for him to go and do now. And I think he will be looking and having to change his own targets of players that he might have thought, I'll buy this bloke from Lazio for 30 million. He's now thinking, I can't do that anymore. I've got to look at a free transfer from Luton to make up for it. And I think it's going to be harder for Mourinho to make Tottenham the team that he wants Tottenham to be.
Well, surely, Jay, it's going to take longer, isn't it, for him? Because with the lack of transfer activity this summer, how can Jose Mourinho take Tottenham forward?
That's the problem for all of us. How can we close that gap to Liverpool and City? And more importantly, how can we stay ahead of Sheffield United and Wolves and Man United and Chelsea and things? I mean, Chelsea look the side that their youngsters will have had a whole year of Premier League experience, and bringing in Ziyech and bringing in Werner, you look at Chelsea and think they definitely do look at a better setup for next year. So already you're saying Liverpool and City are probably a big gap, and Chelsea look like they'll go one above us. So where do we go from here? It's scrapping for that 4th spot again next year, and it's going to be a tough thing, particularly if we don't have Champions League football to try and attract some players with. It's tough for him, and I understand those problems for him. It's not the position. I don't think none of us would have expected to be in this position. Let's be honest. You can't blame him for the position that we're in now of the financial difficulties, but it has probably changed the outlook that he'll have going forward.
Ricky Sachs, the king of transfer gossip. It's very fair to say that it was heavily hinted by the club's board that we weren't going to be spending big anyway this summer, even before COVID-19. Spurs have loaned £175 million from the Bank of England, but it doesn't look like that's going to be on transfers. Do you realistically see Tottenham spending any money this summer?
I see him spending some. I wouldn't say I see him spending a great deal. I think echo really Jason's sentiments. I just think Mourinho's targets that he may have identified pre-COVID, I don't think will be the same as of now. I think he's going to have to be adaptable and maybe change what his priorities are in terms of the transfer market. I think when you look at Spurs overall, there was a rebuild job to be done before Pochettino left, during Poch's reign, up into that Champions League final. And I don't think that has changed for Spurs, even with this COVID scenario. I just think they're going to have to be a bit more clever and structured in terms of moving certain players out that will then free up some cash to then put that towards players that are a priority to bring in. I look at Tottenham. I said it earlier in the show that for me, that fullback area, I think we are so far behind Liverpool and City in terms of their options. And I know we've got the youngster Ryan Sessegnon coming through that at the moment. We still don't know if Sessegnon will be deployed more as an attacking option rather than a defensive model. And I really think Spurs have to be smart in their recruitment over this next couple of months in terms of identifying what their key targets are. For me, nothing has changed in which Spurs still need to get a backup to Harry Kane. I think that was still our biggest failure in the January window. And I do honestly believe that had we have signed a striker of a reasonable quality, that we would have been in a different position had the season carried on to those last couple of results. We had no option at all as a backup to Kane, and that has been Spurs' biggest failure for the last 2 to 3 years. And of course, we know Llorente's done a job. We've had Vincent Janssen, but I don't buy this notion that you can't find a player that can come in and can compete with Harry Kane, because ultimately there'll be strikers out there that will back themselves to think I am good enough to be able to compete with Kane, because Harry, we know now, is in this situation where we are guaranteed, unfortunately, with Harry, due to his age and due to the injuries he's had, at least one injury a season, which could be long-term. So Spurs, for me, still have to sort that issue out. And I look at still at our midfield. I think we are still lacking a defensive midfielder that will bring out the best of Tunji Ndombele and bring out the best of Giovanni Lo Celso. And I think you look at the market out there in terms of who Spurs can get. I mentioned earlier, I know Jace isn't bowled over by Holberg, but he's a player that is a leader. He has played for Bayern Munich. He's played very well in a Southampton team that are looking to go further up the league. He has just got a year left on his contract. You look at Kyle Walker-Peters' situation where I think even if he remained at Tottenham, I think he'd still be quite far down the pecking order. And I think he'd be a player that Spurs could maybe use in a swap deal, maybe with a little bit of cash on the side. And I'm not crazy here. I don't think Spurs are going to have millions to spend. And we know they took out a bank loan. But there was still, I think, money there before COVID, which was there to be used for Mourinho. Maybe it's not going to be as much now, but it does really worry me, fullback. And even, like I say, centre-half, Sanchez has looked good at times. Toby on his days a world-class defender. But let's be honest about it, in that last kind of 6 weeks before the Premier League halted, Toby wasn't looking like the same player. Jan's legs have gone. Juan Foyth, and I think there's always a question of what is his best position. Does Mourinho fancy him because he's more of a technical, gifted defender rather than someone that's going to leave a foot in, and really be a commanding centre half or, a really good explosive right back. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done for Tottenham in the transfer market. And I think it's now about identifying the real key areas and moving quickly. I think that's what Spurs haven't always done. They've left it far too late and targets have gone. So it is really about identifying your targets early and moving as soon as possible. And I'm sure Mourinho, with his coaching staff who he spent lockdown with, they must already have been brainstorming potential free transfers. Thomas Meunier was a name that's come up, but that's gone relatively very quiet now. Maybe it's down to wages. So this is now about thinking smart and moving quickly. Two sides of Tottenham that isn't always they're renowned for, but I think they're going to have to in order to try and get on a level footing where in the future they can compete with Man City and Liverpool. Because at the moment, for me, I still think we are quite way off that. I think we're quite lucky that the teams around us, United, Arsenal, Chelsea and us, we're in transition. Let's be honest about it. We're all in transition. We've either lost our manager in the last couple of years and we're trying to rebuild our squads. Leicester are coming on. Wolves are coming on. So we have to try and stay ahead of that pack behind us whilst also trying to rebuild for the teams that are above us at the moment. And it's going to be tricky.
Let's come back to you. Sorry, go on, Jace.
I just want to say, Chris, I kind of get the feeling that for them to generate the cash to spend, that we may well have to consider one of the three, what I'd call the three crown jewels in going to help raise some cash. Because we could sell a Serge Aurier, we can sell a Walker-Peters, we could sell a Juan Foyth, but none of those are really going to generate cash in this year's window. That's
not a huge amount. Yeah, not a huge amount.
So my fear is, and there's no indication that's been said, but I seriously think if a genuine offer came in for Kane, Ali or Son, that they may give it more consideration than perhaps we as fans would want them to, and that maybe one of those three, like Liverpool did in the Coutinho way of raising cash by selling what they thought was their crown jewel at the time, I fear that Tottenham would take an offer for one of those three players. And I'm not saying I want any of them to go, don't get me wrong, because they're my three crown jewels. But I think if Tottenham, particularly if we miss out on that Champions League, that one of those three may have to be sacrificed to bring money in, that we can bring in at least two decent players to replace one for. And hopefully we make a better job of it than we did with the Bale sale that saw us. We sold Elvis Presley to bring in the Beatles, but the Beatles turned out like S Club 7, didn't it? So, problem.
I've said all along, though, Jace, with players like Harry Kane, Dele Alli, Heung-min Son, Hugo Lloris, they've been at the club all these years. They've won no trophies. So there is going to be a time where one of them is going to say, enough's enough, I need to win some trophies.
Yeah, no, fair point. And Harry and Dele, Sonny, I think, is the one that they probably most want to keep because of all the spin-offs and the merchandising opportunities that he brings in. And Kane is just the poster boy of the club. But you're right, Harry certainly, and those players want to win something at some stage. And Harry's made one or two comments, although nothing that he hadn't said before. But you kind of think, particularly if there's no Champions League football next year, then if one of those got an offer in the summer, it may well be that their head is far easier to turn this year than it would have been at any other stage.
Rick, let's come back to you because I just wanted to talk about two players that we just keep being linked with, and that is Willian from Chelsea and Ryan Fraser. Now, how do you feel about both of those players, in particularly Willian, with the history, given that he went to Chelsea and didn't join Spurs all those years ago?
I think with the Willian transfer, when Jose Mourinho is your manager, I think for many fans that feel they've had to stomach that. I think, Willian is an attractive proposition because he's a free agent, because he has won trophies, because for Mourinho, he's a player that always follows the job he's been given. And you look at that Spurs squad, and don't get me wrong, Willian's not a player that you're going to get 3 or 4 years out of. He's a player that you may get 1 or 2 out of, and for Spurs, maybe it would be worth giving him a 2-year contract. I think the wages are a big thing for him. I think wherever he goes, he'll still accommodate a still fairly big wage. But the attractive thing for Tottenham is there isn't a transfer fee to pay. And to be honest, whenever he's played against us, I thought he's looked really good. I think he's always been very, very good for Chelsea. He's always scored goals against us. He's always had an impact. And I think for Mourinho, what he'll want to do now is he'll be looking to bring in players that he knows will make an immediate influence and that he can trust. And with Willian, he's a player that he knows very well and he can give him a job to do. With the Ryan Fraser one, I'll be honest, when I look at our midfield options, I just don't see where Ryan Fraser is a huge amount better than what we've already got. I look at our midfield and we've got Winks, Sissoko, we've got Skip, we've got the Chelsea in there, we've got Ndombele in there. I don't see where bringing Ryan Fraser in because it's an attractive opposition on a free. I don't see how that massively helps us. I think Oliver Skip's coming through. Would that block his development? So I'm not massively keen, I'll be honest, on that one. I think Willian I would understand because it's a player that Mourinho's worked with. Having said that, many people, fans of Bournemouth, rave about Fraser. They think he's a really good player. And I'm just not too convinced for where Tottenham want to go as a club, where we want the club to go as fans, in terms of trying to get back to competing the likes of Liverpool and Man City for that title and trying to go in the later stage of the Champions League. I don't see where Ryan Fraser really takes Tottenham on, to be honest with you. So I think also our targets are going to change in these next couple of months. Whoever you see now being linked, I think closer to whenever this window will open at some point, I think Spurs will have different targets on the agenda, and you may be surprised by certain clubs trying to move players on. Like Jay said, I think we might be open to a possible sale of a Dele Alli, or dare I say a Heung-min Son, if it was to generate enough money for then Spurs to go out and spend the cash. My biggest worry, if Spurs did that, would be, can we trust the person spending that money? And I think that's what comes into really having a director of football. And obviously this link with Louis Campos, that's gone away now. I think Spurs are crying out for that appointment for Mourinho's aid. I think more than anything, can you trust Daniel to once again get involved in the transfers? Because I think that already will be a recipe for disaster. Having that relationship between Mourinho and Levy. Many people were surprised it even was to happen in the first place and come into the club. So I think the director of football could be a key appointment for Tottenham, and it could ultimately be the club's biggest signing when this window does open or whenever we make that appointment, because having that link between Mourinho and the recruitment back to Daniel, I think is so key. So for me, I think if we can get Louis Campo in, that would be a massive, massive help to Mourinho in general, looking to bring targets to Tottenham.
Ricky, let's come to you. How is the checkbook manager going to do it without the checkbook?
He's going to have to, I don't know, wheel and deal, I suppose, my friend. It's going to be tough. To jump on the back of Ricky's point, and Jace, to tell you the truth, to sell one of the crown jewels, I don't know if Mourinho would want that in the next season. I think he would probably want to keep the strongest parts of the team and at least go like full steam ahead for one season. I think the next full season is going to be big for us anyway. I think after that, depending on what happens and how it goes and how Mourinho has his influence over the team, I see one of those going at the end of next season anyway. So I've got a feeling that he would look to keep them and to galvanize the strong parts of the squad that are already there. He probably, like you said, Rick, he probably doesn't trust that the money would be spent wisely or on the targets that would help the system that he wants to implement. So let's keep what we already know, So I think he would probably go out to kind of put that down. and build around it. And it's going to be the way he builds is, like you say, is through a couple of free transfers. If we can get someone like Meunier, a right back, maybe that helps, and then you can sell Serge and, you know, maybe create a little bit of, you know, get some money in, but getting a free transfer. Do you know what I mean? Like, so they get a little bit of money more to be played with, work on swap deals. You also got to remember that looking at the older market, and I'm not one to be looking at like the older player. You can see that our squad is mostly like a young squad that wants to be youthful and energetic. But getting somebody in with experience and a winning mentality could end up helping us a little bit. I remember when Edgar Davids came to the side, and then I was at the first friendly where he came on, and the first half, the energy of the team was a bit flat. And I think he came on around 50 minutes, 55, something like that. And you just saw this whole lift in the team and the way that they wanted to play and the way that they surged forward at that point. And maybe if there's somebody that they could get in, I know, and Ricky would probably squint at me right now, but someone like Cavani might be great for us. You know, someone like, so instead of spending that money, putting it into the transfer budget, a bit like FIFA, putting it into the transfer budget, into the wage budget, and giving it to Cavani to be that backup striker who, you know, him being of an older age, might feel, you know, better to come off the bench or to compete or to have the odd game here or there, or, you know. So there's got to be some serious deals going on, like some intelligent deals though. There's no point in just getting somebody for getting somebody's sake. There's no point just to get, like you say, like Ryan Fraser, just because he's free. You know, Ricky Sachs put it out there perfectly when he just laid out our squad, and you kind of look at it and go, well, where does he fit in? We're not even talking about his quality, just like where would he make an impact for us? So let's not do that. Let's be intelligent, and you know, let's use our heads. And like Ricky said again, a director of football coming in that can actually, you know, do the job that needs to be done would be a great way to start that.
Ricky, talking about players, people like Eric Lamela and Eric Dyer, they've been linked about moving possibly to get some money for Jose Mourinho to spend. And Ndombele has even been rumoured to be going to Barcelona. If Tottenham could get their money back for Ndombele, would you take it? And what other players do you see, or from a fan's point of view, what players would you like to see leave because you just don't think they're good enough?
I wouldn't take the money for Ndombele. It was always going to be a transition for him. If you know anything about his history, him starting at Amiens, and you know, and him always being doubted along his career, there's always been a question about his fitness and his stamina, and sometimes his willingness. Some games he shows up, some games he doesn't. But we've all seen, especially before we signed him, that his Champions League run, we've all seen his quality, and we all kind of recognize that losing Moussa Dembele, that this guy could come in and take us up a level. And it's just, again, with him, he's just come in. He's, again, learning the language. You can see that how he's kind of had that bromance with Sissoko. So having Sissoko at the side for, 2-3 months as well, that might have affected a lot of different things. So he's adapting. He is adapting. He needed time as well. Like, he was never going to just hit the ground running, just because from what I've read, when the training regime at, what was it? Was it Lille? I think he was at. The training regime there was a lot, I don't want to say easier, but it was a lot more laid back, you know, on intensity wise. And they was almost expected to put all the intensity into Saturday, into match day. Whereas, you know, especially under Pochettino, we was doing double, triple training sessions of high intensity. You know what effect that had on the guys in their first year and the second year of Poch. So we saw massive tiredness in those boys, and the transition in just Tottenham changing from what they were doing regularly to a Poch regime of training. So it was the same thing that had to happen with Ndombele. And then we've had manager change as well. So you don't know whether the manager's feeling you or not feeling you. You don't know how you're feeling about the club, and he needs time. So I would not take the money, no way, shape or form. If we only got one player during the summer, I would have wanted it to be him. I think there's so much more to come from him. There is so much more to give. So no, I wouldn't take no money on him. Who else would I like to see leave? It's basically the ones that are over us. The ones that are over us and we're over them. So, like, for instance, Danny Rose. Danny Rose has been a great servant to the club. He's, under Poch, he was the England left back and stuff like that, and he was flying. And then there was a whole topsy-turvy and back and forth with the club where I don't know what's happened, but there was obviously some type of tension there. And, so he's kind of come to the end of his time at Spurs, and I think we can all see it. I think every party can see that, and we thank him for his time. But he's probably one of the ones high on the list to be sold. And I wouldn't sell Foyth. I think maybe a loan would be great for him. Some regular games to build up his match fitness and to build up his strength. He hasn't had no time to kind of do that yet. And get, beaten up and bashed about, and he hasn't had to, wrestle the big 6'9" player. And when he does, he comes under trouble. So having some regular football at maybe championship level would be fantastic for him. So it's tough, man. It's tough. Some say that Eric Dyer should leave, but it looks like Mourinho's kind of converting him into another centre back. So look, like I say, those that are not feeling us and that are tired, okay, great. Time for you to go. Personally, like, the only one on my one, Danny, Serge a bit, but I have seen an improvement in Serge, and I have seen, Mourinho backing him a little bit, has given him some confidence. So we have seen some improved performances with assists and crossing. But at the same time, we know defensively, everyone's like, please don't tackle, don't touch him. Please tackle, don't. Everybody panics when he goes backwards. So maybe him and getting in another right back. But yeah, we got to be intelligent. We got to be smart with the moves that we make. Like, let's see the weaknesses. Let's try and get the best that we can get with what we've got, and let's back them and try and move forward with them. They're not going to be perfect. They're not going to be world class, 100%. It's not going to be Messi or anyone like that. But it might be the next Messi, and the next Messi is going to make a few mistakes along the way. So let's just back him and give him some time and some patience, and hopefully he can be a great.
Jason, 9 Premier League games left of this season. The preparation, last week we had a training session at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. On Friday, we had 4 segments of 30 minutes training session with Norwich City, not against Norwich City, with Norwich City, as Mourinho said. Have Tottenham prepared enough to go into this game against Manchester United on Friday?
Not at all. But in fairness to them, they've probably prepared as much as they possibly can do. I think when you haven't played for 3 months, we know that from normal pre-season. You'd like a genuine run of games, and let's be fair, 3 or 4 30-minute sessions against one team where you have to make a few substitutes. They're just literally trying to get players used to playing in front of an empty stadium and trying to get a few minutes into their legs. So, it's a case of that's all the preparation that we were able to do, and so off we go. It's great for us to have the players like Kane and that back, but we won't know how they'll perform until they're genuinely pushed in a Premier League game. The difference is that, the one player we probably all fear from Manchester United is Rashford, and they'll have him back as well, and Pogba will be back. So, and they'll be invigorated, and West Ham will be invigorated, and Sheffield United will be invigorated. And Ricky was saying earlier about players, having to use this time and thinking, right, where do I want my career to go? But that applies to every other club as well. So it's just so hard to predict how we'll be. And I think that empty stadiums is going to be really, really difficult to know how the hell you adjust to that, because players like Delis and that thrive on that feedback from the crowd, don't they? They want that. Even some of the boo boy type players, that all clubs have. You know, they thrive on being booed by opposition fans, and they won't be. So it's going to be so hard to adjust to that, and I don't think 3 or 4 lots of 30 minutes against Norwich really gets you used to that. But as I say, in fairness to them, that's probably all that most teams have had, and that's all they can have. So it's going to be really difficult to know. I just think that Man United game is the only one to look at. It's simply we must, if we are to be in the Champions League next year, we have to win that game. It's as simple as that. We have to win that. If we don't win that, you can wave it goodbye, because we'd be 7 points behind Man United. God knows how many. I think we'd probably be 10 points behind Chelsea by then. That's gone. You're not going to make that up in the remaining 8 games. So that sets the tone for everything, and that's the only game we can look at the moment.
Rick, let's come on to you. How do you think that the Tottenham Hotspur players are going to feel, the likes of Arsenal at home, the first ever North London derby at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium without a crowd? Is there any advantage of actually being at home or not?
I don't know. I mean, you look at the way our home form was going before this break, you'd probably argue that we weren't that great home, away, neutral, anywhere. It's so crazy to try and predict how it's going to be for us, because everybody else is in the same position. We're all going to be in the same position. I was one that wanted the season to be finished for integrity purposes. But at the same time, if they were to avoid it, I wouldn't have been too disappointed because of how poor Spurs have been over this period until now. And again, have we had enough time to prepare? I would say no, we haven't. But like Jace mentions, that we're all in the same position. I think the crowd's a big factor, because I look back at that game against City, for example, and having that 12th man, I think really did kind of push us on to get the win in that game, for example. Yeah. So I think it's such a big loss for us, but everybody else is going to be in the same boat. And ultimately, I think when you get out there, this is down to the quality of the players and the quality of the coaching staff as to how quickly teams adapt. And I think the point I want to make really is that from day one of the pandemic, as truly awful and horrific it's been to see people lose their lives, Mourinho has been, the manager at the focal point with the players to say, look, we're having Zoom chats every day at 10 a.m. We want to keep the continuity of the squad together. We really want to try and make sure that we're in a position where mentally and physically, if the Premier League does return, we're ready to go. And I think you can only praise him on how he's managed that approach during this COVID-19 pandemic. And I think Spurs, in my opinion, have got a greater chance now than what they had before this break of really pushing on. And I think all of it will depend really on that Man United game. I know it's a lot to say that the other 8 games pale into insignificance, but I think if you get a result against Manchester United, the way that lifts the squad morale, and then what we've got left to come, we narrow that gap down slightly to United, but it's also the impact on that does to the other teams. Playing the likes of Arsenal, I mean, we all saw their friendly result, but then we saw, again, the Norwich result. It's over 4 separate segments where I know Spurs have played it down, that it was a training exercise, but, to only score once in 4 separate half-an-hour segments doesn't fill you with ultimate confidence. But we've got quality players, the likes of Kane, the likes of Bergwijn, the likes of Son, the Chelsea. You look through this team, there's players that can score. It's at the other end, to be honest, I've got my more concerns in terms of defence. But difficult to know what we're going to see. But I'm confident more now than what I was before the break. This time next week, Friday night, I think we'll all be a bit nervous as to what we're going to be anticipating and expecting. I know we laughed and joked on the WhatsApp chat when we were discussing the Norwich game and how that friendly, but it's going to be a different kettle of fish. I think when it's a competitive nature where you've got to go out there and it's 3 points on the line, it's a different mentality. Mourinho, I think, as a coach, is made to be able to get the best out of players when they need it most. And we've seen that, championships, finals, this man has got over the line. So we've got 9 cup finals left. If this is the man that brings the trophies, then this should be the man that can win these next 9 cup finals.
But does it worry you though, Rick, the fact that we've played Manchester United already this season, we've played Chelsea twice, of course, 2 of his former clubs, and we've lost all 3 of them?
Of course, listen, I can't get away from the fact that, of course, I'm worried by our form before the pandemic, but there's got to be a certain sense of optimism by the fact that, we have got the squad back available that, to be honest, before the break, we never had that. But I can't be excited about knowing the unknown. That's the truth.
But it's always the defence that have let us down, because obviously all of us Tottenham fans know that we've got a great midfield on paper. We've got a fantastic attack. We can always score goals. It's just the defence that seems to let us down all season.
The amount of individual errors this Spurs team have made collectively over the past 12 to 18 months is why we have ultimately failed at the last hurdle. You know, on so many occasions, we've nearly got there. We've nearly won the Champions League final, or, you know, we nearly got to the FA Cup final, but it's the individual errors. And that's why, you know, as Rick and Jason said, this squad is still in need of that rebuild, but it won't be as quick as what all of us want it to be. It's not going to be, unfortunately. You know, we're going to have to expect and unfortunately understand that, you know, we're still maybe going to get some dodgy results. We are, because these are the same players, regardless of whatever environment you take them out of, fans or no fans, they're the same players. And in this group are the same players that have let us down. But at the end of the day, we need results. We have got 9 cup finals, and Mourinho is all about finding a way to win. That's one of those things that we discussed a lot about Jose Mourinho. It's that this man knows how to win, finds a way to win, and gets the best out of players from a mental perspective. Now, we've got to see it. We've got to see it. And again, I don't know what to expect. I really don't know what to expect, but I am a lot more optimistic than I was before the RB Leipzig game. I'm sure we all are. God, that was... we could do an hour on that, to be honest, but we don't want to.
Ricky, let's come on to you. Surely, if Tottenham don't get the 3 points in this game, we can kiss goodbye to Champions League football next season.
Yeah, I agree. But then it's, what do you do next? What are you going to do? Are we going to cry about it? Are we going to sulk? Or are we going to use the rest of the games to kind of work the systems, experiment, bring in some of the kids? You know, like, let's use this time so that if it does all go belly up, if it does all go belly up, then at least let's use the time. Like, let's prep, and let's get a little bit angry, and let's get a little bit frustrated that we haven't achieved what we all want to achieve, what we all know that we can achieve. So let's work on those problems, those weaknesses. Let's look at ourselves. Let's look at as in the players. Let's look at the choices that they made at the time, and see where they can improve, and let's move forward. You know. So I think all of them are just going to be, they should and be super kind of like just happy to get back to playing football. And that's on all of us. Like, them playing games allows us to be passionate. It gives us an opportunity to be happy. And if it all goes the other way, then it gives us an opportunity to vent again about football. It allows us to express again about football. Do you know what I mean? So let's all go in to enjoy that. Let's forget the yeah but mentality. You know, yeah but yeah. You know what? The one thing that COVID has shown us is that anything can happen at any time. You know what I mean? Like, so let's go with the yeah. Forget the yeah but. Let's just go with the yeah. You know, let's just go with it. I'm telling you. Because they're not going to be able to hear us roar and cheer them on, because we're not going to be able to be in the stadium, in the ground. So we're going to have to do it from home. So let's forget the yeah, but let's just go with the yeah. And if it all goes belly up, and if it doesn't happen, well, then it doesn't happen. Then whoever is there in front of us deserves to be there. But let's work out what happens next. Let's not cry about it. Let's not crumble. Let's get angry and motivated so that we don't make the same mistakes and we go again. You know what I mean? And we can show that we can step up to another level. We can show that we're not just, you know, all about the crumble, all about the apple crumble. We're not about that no more, all right? We're about leveling up, okay? So, I want to see a reaction either which way.
Ricky, I love your positivity. I think next time Spurs lose, I'm going to ring you and you can be my counselor for the next hour or so.
Ricky Sachs does the same, man. Ricky does every time, like, we have like 20 minutes and just like, all right, cool. There wasn't too much positivity before lockdown, but now, like I say, it's all back. I'm recharged, man. I'm recharged.
Jace, let's come on to you. If Tottenham don't get a Champions League place for next season, would you like Tottenham to be playing in the Europa League or no European football at all?
I think the Europa League will give us an opportunity to win a trophy. So, you know, I'd love Tottenham to play 365 games a season, mate. You know, I love match day. So it wouldn't. The group stage is painful if you're playing Tromso and teams like that. But that presumably is the games that Ryan Fraser would come in for, to give your Sons and Bergwijns rest. So that's why I think they'd look at a Ryan Fraser for that type of game, and your Colchester in the cup games and things like that. But the advantage obviously is if you don't have it, does that give you a better chance of reaching the top 4 next year? And then we go into that whole thing. What would people settle for at the end of next season? Being back in the Champions League or a trophy? And we get back into that whole debate again. And I honestly think club to really move forward as a club, you've got to have Champions League football. So that's the aim for me to get next season, because I don't think we will get it this year. So are we more likely to do that without having Europa League? I don't know, but I think that Europa League is we saw him win it with Manchester United. It's realistically a trophy I think you could kind of target to try and win. I'd sooner win the Europa League, for instance, than the Carabao Cup, and probably sooner win that than the FA Cup. So I would want European football. I still think get through that group stage, and if you were playing Leverkusens and Monacos and Romas and things like that in the knockout rounds, that's still a big enough draw to want those types of games. And there's always a couple of the big boys end up getting knocked down from the Champions League, isn't there? So yeah, I do want the Europa League if we can't get Champions League.
Rick, let's come on to you. Where do you see Tottenham finishing at the end of this season? What is your and this is a question for all. This is the last question for all three of you. Where do you see Tottenham finishing this season? What do you think the result will be against Manchester United, and how do you think Jose will line up against Man United?
God, what a question. I'll start with the finishing position. I just think because of this crazy year 2020's been, and for how in the past we've almost always been cursed with the league and how it works. I think Spurs are going to finish 5th. And I think City's European ban will be reduced to a year, meaning that Tottenham will end up somehow securing a Champions League spot. And Mourinho is going to be lauded. And people like Jason are going to have to stomach the fact that he could get us to a Champions League place when he came in mid-season with a fragmented squad, with a change in manager. I
guarantee if Tottenham finish 5th, Manchester City's ban is completely wiped out.
I know.
Anyone else finishes 5th, they'll get it. If Tottenham finish 5th, Man City's ban is reduced completely. I promise you.
I just got a feeling with Mourinho in charge, he's a manager that does seem to get a lot of luck on his side. And that's why I think maybe we could be due a bit of luck. We've needed God in the previous year. So I do think we're going to finish 5th. In terms of the result against Man United, I'll be honest, I think it's going to probably be 1-1. I think both teams are going to be way off the pace. And I think 1-1's not the result we want. Of course we want the win. But I think United are a good outfit. And I think we have to remember that. We're playing against a United side that were really banging form before the pandemic hit us. They've got some good players. I know there's been reports that Mourinho may feel that Solskjaer is out of his depth. But manager or not, the quality of the players are there, all to be seen. They've got some really good players, United, and they were coming into a bit of form before this. And I think it's going to take both sides some time to adjust to the new settings, the new surroundings. So I'm going to go with a 1-1. Team-wise, I think Lloris in goal, Ben Davies at left back, Toby Alderweireld at centre back, Davinson Sanchez partnering him. Right back, I know again he's not maybe some fans' favourite. I think he will go with Serge Aurier, just on the basis that Serge does offer us a bit of pace on the flank. Midfield, I think Ndombele will start. I think Lo Celso will play. And I think obviously Dele Alli's ban means there will be an up for grabs spot there maybe in midfield. So wouldn't surprise me if you see maybe Skip playing. Wouldn't surprise me at all. He liked him a lot, I think, before this break. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if Mourinho does, throw a little bit of, a spanner in the works, really. And then I think
Sissoko will play.
I think Sissoko, we've got to ease him back. He's come from a long-term injury. I think Sissoko will definitely get minutes. But I think Mourinho will want to work with players that he knows will be capable enough to start the game. But I think what will be key for me is having those options off the bench. I think that's what Mourinho's always loved. He's loved having options to turn to. And he's going to have that now. If he starts Kane and if he starts Bergeron and you've got Son on the bench, or again, reverse it, you look what he's got on his bench there. I think there's so many good options for him that, he has now, for me, got very little amount of excuses to make, apart from the excuse every manager will make, is that they haven't had enough time on the training pitch to implement what they really want to do for the next 9 games coming up. But I think with the quality he's got now available to him, we can't hear the excuses that he can't play a brand of football because he hasn't got the players. He's got all the players available to him that can get results. So 1-1, and we're going to finish 5th and nick a Champions League spot.
Ricky, what about you?
Result-wise, I'm going to go 2-1, Tottenham. Yeah, I'm going to say that we win the game. Formation-wise, I'm going to say like 4-2-3-1 again. I reckon they're going to put Sissoko and Ndombele together, and I think that he's going to go. I think he's going to go with his full strength side, like as strong as it can be, for at least 60 minutes. I think the 5 subs come into play. The fact that he can take them off if and when they're flagging, and I think he's really going to use that to his advantage. And I'm going to stay positive, and I'm going to say that we're going to finish in 5th and grab that last Champions League spot. And I want to be back on this when that happens, because I don't even want to speak when that happens. I just want Chris to speak to Jace, and I just want to sit here and just watch his face. That's all I want to do. So hopefully, fingers crossed, like I say, 2-1 the score, definitely finish in 5th. And I reckon he's going to go full strength. I reckon he's going to partner Sissoko with Ndombele. I reckon, you know what? Tanganga and Sanchez might be the new wave partnership. I know he wants Dyer in there, centre-back partnership, but I see Tanganga and Sanchez being the 2 that are going to like be the next generation of things. So whether he starts implementing that or like ready for next season or for next season, there's exciting times ahead, man. There's exciting times ahead. We're going to make this happen. Come on, you Spurs.
So, Jace, 9 cup finals, as Ricky Sachs just said. How many cup finals can we win?
We can win 9, but whether we will is different to whether we can. It's so hard. Like I say, it's pure guesswork at the moment, isn't it? You can't really feel any result. Can we beat Man United? Yes, we can. Would you be surprised if we lost 4-0? No, I wouldn't. It's just you just can't go from anything. I think Rick's side wasn't far away from what I'd have. I perhaps would go with Tanganga at right back, because Aurier had a nightmare at Old Trafford and Rashford is back, and Rashford gave him all sorts of problems, and we saw at Old Trafford that constantly Sissoko got dragged out there. Sissoko gave the penalty away in the end, early in the second half, because Aurier was out of position. I think didn't Gazzaniga got beat on the near post for the first goal by Rashford that night, wasn't it? So I might go with Tanganga in the way that he went with Tanganga against Liverpool. Just thinks I'd sooner have his pace against Rashford than Aurier going walkabouts. I think he will go 4-3-3. I'd probably go Winks and Ndombele Lo Celso. Not because I think that's the right midfield. I just think they're the best 3 we have at the moment that we can do. And then I'd probably go Son, Kane. Then it's probably Mora or Bergwijn as the other one. He might go Bergwijn, but my gut feeling is we'll finish 7th. I honestly don't think we'll get 5th anyway. I think there's just too many points. If I looked at it and think from those 9 games, realistically, would you take 6 wins, 2 draws and a defeat as a 9-game run? That's not actually too bad a sequence of results. But I think if we win 6, draw 2 and lose 1, we still don't get Champions League football, because other teams will just pick up more points than us. If there was 15 games to go, I might be more confident of doing it than if there's 9 games to go. And let's be fair, we got some tough games at home. West Ham, we know, is never easy for us at home. The derby at home, you've got Leicester and even Everton are chasing a European spot. Leicester's the last home game of the season, isn't it? Or is Everton the final one? I can't remember what the fixture list is. So there's some tough ones, and we still got to go Sheffield United as well. So my gut feeling is we'll finish 7th.
Wow.
It's not positive, it's not negative, it's reality, mate. It's realistic. What we think we'll do.
Well, it's scary to think that we could win 6 out of those 9 and not still get a Champions League place. But then, of course, this season has been a mediocre season. So, you get what you've played for. So it's unfortunate.
The thing is, Chris, 6 wins and 2 draws, 20 points. will Chelsea get more than 13 points in their 27 available? Yes, they will. They'll get more than 13. So that's what I mean. You're relying on the other teams doing you massive favours, and there's just too many teams have got to drop too many points for us to be able to go on a Champions League run with that. I think, if we win all 9, yes, there's a great chance, but I think that's the type of form we'll have to do, is win all 9. And do I expect us to win all 9? No, not really, not if I'm honest.
Well, let's hope we do get the 3 points on Friday. Ricky, Jason, Ricky, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been absolutely brilliant, and I tell you, I could speak to you all day about Tottenham. It's been a really good chat, so thanks very much indeed.
Cheers,
Thanks
boys.
for having me, man.
Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do put all of your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. And also let me know whether you agreed with Ricky, Jason or Ricky with their comments, or did you disagree with them? And how excited are you for the Premier League returning for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club in just 5 days' time on Friday night against Manchester United? Let me know your score predictions in the comment section below. And I will see you tomorrow for a Tottenham news video. Stay safe and well. Come on, you Spurs. Last year in May, I was very lucky to get this award, the Best Club Content Creator Award at the Football Blogging Awards at the Etihad Stadium, the home of Manchester City. It was actually the day after the Ajax game. I flew back from Amsterdam, went straight up to Manchester and won this award. What a 24 hours watching Lucas Moura score that hat-trick and then picking up this award. Well, I have just been notified that I have been shortlisted for the 2020 award for the Football Content Awards at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this November. You can vote for me for this award. In the comment section below, I've put all of the links. You can vote via Twitter and Instagram, but probably the easiest way is to just go onto their website, go down the scroll down boxes and just see my name, Chris Cowlin, and then just press the submit button, and then you will cast your vote. I would really appreciate it. What a moment it would be to lift a trophy at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.